Hello, this is Heo Young-hoon from the Oriental Culture Academy. Today is the fifth and final installment of the Sympathetic Empathy series. I will begin the lecture on the topic of sympathetic resonance and a scientific approach to cremation, and can cremation also bring prosperity? Sympathetic resonance, which posits that ancestral remains and living descendants share the same energy and resonate with one another, is the most fundamental theoretical basis of yin-take Feng Shui. The principle is that even though ancestral remains are buried underground, the wave energy emanating from them is transmitted to descendants who share the same energy, because ancestors and descendants share the same genes. This is also called parent-child resonance, in that it only affects direct blood relatives. However, as funeral culture rapidly shifted from a burial-centered approach to cremation and columbarium facilities, a significant controversy arose within the Feng Shui community. The question is whether sympathetic resonance actually occurs even in the case of cremation, where the remains have been destroyed. In this session today, we intend to seek a solution to this problem by integrating the teachings of Feng Shui classics with modern sciences such as genetics, chemistry, and quantum mechanics. Orthodox Feng Shui classics clearly state that the medium of sympathetic resonance is the physical bones of ancestors, that is, remains. The Dongyang states that when a person dies after living for 100 years, they leave their physical form and return to their original state. The spirit enters heaven, and the remains, the bones, return to the earth. Furthermore, it is said that if the bones respond to auspicious energy, many blessings will come to the person. The Dongyang also states that a person receives their body from their parents, and that if the parents' remains gain vital energy, the surviving children receive hidden virtue. The descendants.But also explains that in order to bury the remains of one's parents, one must obtain good land, stating that this is naturally equivalent to obtaining land suitable for planting tree roots. It emphasizes that just as thousands of branches and tens of thousands of leaves will flourish, almost all of them, if tree roots find good soil, if parents' remains find good soil, their benevolent virtue is naturally bestowed upon their children. Therefore, even among 100 sons and 1,000 grandsons, is there any descendant who would not receive such blessings? As such, the classics unanimously emphasize that the remains of parents serve as a medium for receiving the earth's energy and transmitting it to their descendants. The principle that the remains, which are the roots of a tree, must be planted in good soil for the branches and leaves, the descendants, to flourish precisely matches today's genetic connections. If we translate the sympathetic resonance of Feng Shui into modern science, it can be explained as the resonance phenomenon of genetic frequencies known as DNA. Over the long period of time during which buried remains gradually return to the soil, they preserve the family's unique frequencies, such as Y chromosomes and mitochondrial DNA, and act as antennas that capture the energy of an auspicious site. However, cremation is an act that artificially and permanently destroys this biological antenna. Scientifically, DNA is an organic material highly vulnerable to heat. Its double helix structure begins to unravel and break down at around 100 degrees Celsius, and it burns up completely if the temperature exceeds 300 to 400 degrees. It is known that the temperature in modern crematoriums typically ranges from 1,000 degrees to over 1,200 degrees. The melting point of iron is 1538 degrees. As such, even hard cast iron melts into molten iron in the face of fierce heat of around 1,500 degrees, so it is impossible for human bones to remain intact. In this tremendous fire, all cells, proteins, and genetic information remaining deep within the bones are burned without a trace. The white bone dust collected after cremation is nothing more than a mass of calcium and phosphorus, which are pure inorganic substances with absolutely no DNA remaining. We often say that we return to a handful of earth. But while some genetic information may remain in a handful of uncremated soil, none of this remains in cremated soil. In reality, when you exhume a grave, cremated bones and bones after decomposition are completely different. I could clearly see that the cremated bones were weak in strength and riddled with small holes. The results of excavating a grave containing only cremated remains showed this, clearly demonstrating that it is different from ordinary remains. Synchronous resonance is a quantum mechanical wave phenomenon in which the DNA of ancestors remains and the DNA of their descendants resonate with each other. However, if the ancestral DNA acting as the transmitter was 100% destroyed by high heat, the medium itself for transmitting wave energy to descendants has disappeared. This is the same logic as expecting a signal to be picked up by a receiver when the transmission tower has burned down. The moment the bone melts away, the physical circuit of synchronous resonance is also completely severed. Even though physical remains have vanished, some Feng Shui practitioners and classical texts, particularly the Uryong-Sipmun chapter of the Uryong-Gyeong, claim that spiritual resonance occurs through so-called souls, or mental rituals such as adoption, filial piety, ancestral rites, and the prayers of Buddhist monks. Let us accept these classics and assume that there is a possibility for energy to be transmitted, even through disembodied souls, that is, through spirit tablets or altars. Even so, I believe the fundamental premise is that the place where the spirit is enshrined must be a true auspicious site. Feng Shui is fundamentally a discipline that deals with the principles of the land. Therefore, not only in places where remains are present, but even if spirits are involved. The Feng Shui conditions of spatiality, that is, the auspicious site and energy point where vital energy gathers, must be secured, emphasizing only the soul or ritual while excluding the spatiality of the land, as nothing more than a superstitious supplication seeking mere wishes, remaining in the realm of abstraction and morality rather than Feng Shui blessings. You cannot blindly expect good fortune by enshrining a spirit in an inauspicious site where the vital energy clustering point itself has been broken, or in a place where the terrain has been damaged. This is because the minimum conditions for the soul to rest and respond are established only when the complete energy of the auspicious site, that is, perfect spatiality, is presupposed. In conclusion, when synthesizing the teachings of Feng Shui classics with the principles of modern genetics and quantum mechanics, it is fundamentally and logically sound that sympathetic resonance is established when a physical medium, namely remains, is present. This is the valid established theory to date. Therefore, I believe that when bones are destroyed by cremation, the biological circuit of Feng Shui blessings comes to an end. Furthermore, the resonance derived from spirits, ancestral rites, and filial piety is an external factor of Feng Shui, and a spiritual and psychological realm that still requires deeper research. Even though the biological circuits mediated by the remains may have been severed, the inherent value of the Feng Shui space, known as an auspicious site, does not become meaningless. Whether the remains are enshrined in an auspicious site or the soul is enshrined after cremation due to unavoidable circumstances, the act itself of descendants, visiting a truly auspicious site imbued with pure and positive energy to honor their ancestors, holds great significance. The exceptional natural energy of a propitious site directly bestows vitality upon the descendants who visit it. In the process of sincerely offering ancestral rites and earnestly praying for the well-being of one's own life, descendants gain powerful mind control and a sense of psychological stability. In the method of earthworks, it is like how, when soil is piled high on a tree to give it strength, a dry part of a branch often comes back to life and grows lush. It emphasizes that this depends on the child striving and cultivating himself. When self-cultivation and effort combine with the energy of an auspicious site, even if it is not a physical sympathetic resonance of the bones, it can become the driving force for descendants to carve out a positive destiny and advance toward prosperity. This is likely the true geomantic and humanistic reason why, even as times change and funeral culture evolves, we must still seek out auspicious sites and devote our utmost devotion to our ancestors. The scientific and Feng Shui interpretations regarding sympathetic resonance and cremation presented in this article are views based on my extensive field experience and academic research. I would like to clarify that, as various interpretations exist, even within the field of Feng Shui regarding the mechanism of sympathetic resonance, my views may differ from those of other Feng Shui experts or scholars. With this, I will conclude the 5-part lecture series on sympathetic resonance and the prosperity of descendants. For your reference, if you visit the Baekhyun Feng Shui Research Cafe, you can find more in-depth Feng Shui information that was not covered in the video. Thank you for watching. This is Heo Young-hoon from the Oriental Culture Academy.